All right, so we are not that far away from Shin Megami Tensei V on the Nintendo Switch. The game is dropping this November, and I wanted to talk about a variety of different things with the game pertaining to how much it can actually do on the market. What do I think the score is going to be? How is the press going to receive this type of hardcore Japanese game? And do I actually like it more than the Persona franchise? These are all things I get asked multiple times on my live stream, so I thought I'd make a video about it. Plus, I also wanted to talk about the future of Atlus, what's going on with the Nintendo Switch, and how they might have to, not even might, they probably will have to change course on what they do for the next Persona game, considering what is going on in Japan with the systems and the development atmosphere. But before we get into that, what's up everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button on here and also subscribe if you are someone new for daily gaming videos and also live streams, and also click that notification bell to get my videos first. We drop them every single day at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So let's go ahead and get into this, starting off with Shin Megami Tensei V. If you don't know at this point, Shin Megami Tensei V is a really in-depth, cool Japanese RPG series. It's turn-based. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a huge Shin Megami Tensei fan. I've been playing the games for a very long time here, and the upcoming game, Shin Megami Tensei V, is launching exclusively on the Nintendo Switch this November, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about various different aspects of the game. So let's go ahead and start off with how much can it sell? These are things that I get asked so much on the channel, and I wanted to just talk about it some more here. So how much can the game do? So previously with other Shin Megami Tensei games, with Shin Megami Tensei V, we're not talking about Persona here. We're just discussing Shin Megami Tensei V. They usually don't do over 1 million units. All of them are underneath that. I think the best selling one in the franchise with the main line numbered is Shin Megami Tensei 4. I think that's around the best. I'm not sure if you combine the Shin Megami Tensei 3 with Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD remaster sales. That might have eclipsed Shin Megami Tensei 4, but for the most part, Shin Megami Tensei 4 on the Nintendo 3DS is the best selling one, or one of the better selling games in the series. So realistically, what can Atlus expect for SMT5 on the Nintendo Switch? Well, here's what I would think. Now, if you look at what I've talked about before, the Switch effect, what is this? This is the effect of the Nintendo Switch has on series that are older or series that haven't quite done as well on previous systems. But when you put it out on the Switch, because of the hybrid nature of the system, where you're combining the home console fans with portable fans, you get a flurry or a rush of more people to buy the game that would have normally not bought it before, or who would be more interested in the game because it's simply on the Nintendo Switch platform. So this has happened for a number of first-party and third-party games already on the Nintendo Switch. And can SMT5 benefit from that? And absolutely it can. So at the bare minimum, when it comes down to it, and if you look at the other things, which we'll talk about, positioning and all that, if you look at everything, at the bare minimum, I see this game being the best-selling mainline SMT game in the franchise, so at least 1 million units. Now, 1 million units is not bad for SMT. However, for the quality of the game, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit with the score and everything, for the quality of the game, I think it should definitely do better. We've been getting these incredible trailers for it, graphically speaking, and what they've been able to do with Unreal Engine 4 on the Nintendo Switch is quite impressive. Now, it is a turn-based RPG. It's not an action RPG, so I kind of understand that sentiment from people. But even still, up until this point, there hasn't been many Unreal Engine 4 Japanese RPGs on the Nintendo Switch that look this impressive, and I would say this isn't crazy to say that this is the most impressive looking Japanese RPG on the Nintendo Switch system. Or even like Dragon Quest XI S Definitive Edition, that's an Unreal Engine 4 game on the Switch. I think that SMT5 actually looks better. And if you're talking about original games built specifically for the Nintendo Switch, which Dragon Quest XI was, but we still had a version that looked better with the PlayStation 4 version of the game. Just games that are only on Switch, and that's where we're getting it first. This is probably the most impressive looking one, especially from a Japanese developer. So I do feel that if you factor in all of that with the game in terms of how it looks and in terms of the Switch effect and everything, I do feel that it's going to sell a minimum of 1 million, and the ceiling for this type of game is probably around 3 million or so, and that's if things go incredibly good for the game. I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm saying that the ceiling in terms of what it can do, maybe they hit some type of crazy spark, or maybe they kind of just go off. People just really love this game, and word of mouth just spreads so much, and some of that Persona fan base actually dips into what's going on with the Switch here. Now, if that happens, then that's where the ceiling can be reached, if they can get some of those Persona fans to kind of dip into SMT5, which I think that can happen considering Persona 5 is old at this point, and fans have been looking for this type of game. They've been looking for another game to play after Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Strikers did very well too. So I do think if that fan base can come over and the Persona 5 fan base can come over, this game can definitely reach up to 2.5 to 3 million units at the high end. Now, let's talk about the Metacritic score for this one here, because I find this one to be very interesting. SMT games usually review very well. They're going to be in the 80s range and everything, but there's also been like the whole it's the portable side factor. It's too hard in terms of the gameplay and other things like that, and it hasn't really modernized well when it comes to what some of the reviewers are looking for in the modern time space, even back in 2013 on the Nintendo 3DS and everything. So I personally feel that with this one here, if the story can kind of hold together, because we know the graphics are already good, but if the story can hold together and if the gameplay can be snappy and quick and enough quality options, quality of life options and other things to kind of speed up the process and kind of get through things to where Westerners kind of have to give it that score because of what it did, similar to Persona 5, then I do think that it can have somewhere in the high 80s. So I'm definitely going to go somewhere in the 87, 88 range. I think you can get that. Now, a Miracle, for some reason, I don't know how it would be able to do it, but if it was able to get a 90 plus rating, that would definitely affect how much it can sell, considering that when a game does that well, people just say, oh, well, it scored this, then I'm going to get the game, because a lot of people just like to look at the review score and say, okay, I'm going to buy it because they say it did this well, you know, which is a positive and a negative at the same time, but that's not the point of what I'm talking about here. I'm simply just discussing where I think it's going to end up in terms of score. So I'm going to go in and give it a high 80s type of range. Now, next up, do I like SMT more than Persona? So this is the crazy thing. It's essentially a showdown because I've played almost every single SMT game, almost every single Persona game, and to be honest, I really only like the numbered mainline ones. I only really like the numbered mainline ones going from 3 and up for both of them. And we're not talking about Tokyo Mirage Sessions and stuff like that. I love Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but we're just not counting that. So with SMT, I love 3, I love 4, I love 4 Final or 4 Apocalypse, and now we have this game. With Persona, I love 3, I love 4, I love 5, I love 5 Royal, and now like we have SMT5. So really what it's going to be SMT5. Do I like SMT5 more than Persona 5 / Persona 5 Royal? If I do, then it might just shift the balance over to SMT. If I don't, then it's going to stay on the Persona train. Because right now I'm like, okay, I like Persona a bit more, but SMT5 is looking impressive, very impressive. Graphically, the most impressive thing that I've seen from Atlus so far. And also gameplay wise, it looks from the UI, while it's not as stylish as Persona 5, I think it's more functional and more helpful from an information standpoint than Persona 5, because Tokyo Mirage Sessions is that way, and they kind of took that type of style in that UI font. Like I said, not quite as stylish and as sleek, but definitely more helpful in terms of battle information and knowledge. So I'm thinking that I just might like SMT5 more, but we're gonna have to wait and see on that. It really balances based off of SMT5 versus Persona 5 / Persona 5 Royal. So we'll see what happens there. Now for the last part, we're going to talk about Atlus and what they're going to do, changing course for the Nintendo Switch for this gen and next gen. Obviously, if you don't know what happened recently, there was a huge shakeup, at least not even shakeup, but just a huge thing that happened for the Japanese sales charts, to where the Nintendo Switch took all of the top 30 spots. It was the first time since 1988 that I read. I know since the 80s that this has happened. So if you're a Japanese developer and you're looking at the different game sales and you're looking at how much Sony and Microsoft essentially are non-existent in Japan at this point. Sony has had a little bit of success with the PlayStation 5, but not really much, to be honest. And they're not sending many units over there. All of the allocation is being sent to the US. And if you're a Japanese developer, especially Atlus, which sells a lot of games in Japan, can you really bank on PlayStation 5 having enough units for that to be the lead thing going forward? I mean, you could. And if you look at what's selling here in the West, like, it seems like it's more of just stuff like Final Fantasy and some of the bigger end RPGs. I mean, I'm pretty sure Persona 6 or whatever the case would do fine. And I don't think that they wouldn't develop on the PlayStation 5 for the next Persona game. I just think that it's a little bit risky to kind of only go in on the PlayStation base and say, okay, well, we're not going to go in on the Nintendo Switch, considering what's going on. Switch is selling by far like 5 to 10 times plus more than any other system in Japan at this point. And to sweep the top 30, I mean, it seems like a number of other smaller Japanese companies like Nippon Ichi and also Falcom and other companies are kind of realizing that they do kind of have to switch course going into this mid-gen to next-gen when it comes to what Nintendo's doing, because it looks like you need a hybrid to even sell in Japan at this point. You just can't have a stationary box that just sits there. So I can see Atlus kind of shifting focus, because you do have to do that from an internal standpoint. It's not just, oh, we see this system selling, then we just snap our fingers and all of a sudden we develop on those systems. That's something that you have to plan. You have to get your developers ready for that. That's developing on ARM, a small CPU and the GPU and everything that the Switch has, a mobile chip, compared to developing on the x86 type of platforms and using SSDs and everything. So you really have to take into account what platforms you're developing on and plan for that with resources, development, knowledge, training, and all of that. And obviously Atlus, you know, took their time with that. Look at what they had to do with SMT5. I mean, I'm pretty sure they went through a lot of growing pains with the Switch and everything, but they've probably learned and then can do that going forward, because what they've been able to do with Unreal Engine 4 on the Switch is very impressive. So we'll see what they're going to do with the next Persona game. We'll see what they're going to do with some of their other games, but I would expect there to be a shift from Atlus and many other companies heading into what Nintendo has next in the next few years, and also what they're going to do at the tail end of the Switch's life as well. Like I said, I'm not saying that they need to stop developing on PlayStation or anything like that. I think that they still will, but they need to shift focus to make sure that it includes the Nintendo Switch and whatever Nintendo's going to do next, or you're going to get left behind in your own home country where you're used to selling hundreds of thousands of copies of games, and sometimes millions with certain games, certain franchises like Dragon Quest, for example. So what are your thoughts on this when it comes to SMT5 and Atlus and switching course potentially for the next Persona and what they're doing with Nintendo? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the link in the description. I've got a Twitter page. Go and give me a follow on there. Stay up to date on all latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.